one or two situations regarding interesting topics. And now Fred will show us some interesting topic regarding the cloud application programming model. And the stage is yours. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome everyone back into the room. Yes, the application programming model for the SAP Cloud Platform. Let me, before we dive into the topic, introduce myself very quickly. I'm in daily life a consultant at a Dutch SAP partner company, SOA people. Recently, last year, we took over Cormeta in Germany. Anyone know Cormeta? Anyone from Cormeta here? No, probably not. Yeah. And I am mainly consider myself a back-end developer. Right? That's why I'm in this room and not in the UI5 room. I was more interested in what stuff does than how it, what it looks like. But that's just me. Also, a lot of other interests beyond SAP, which I sometimes try to bring into the SAP community as well. Try to be a good community citizen by speaking at events, for instance. But the most important part is that I'm in no way an expert on the cloud application programming model. I just heard about this stuff when I was preparing for last year's SAP TechEd. It has been out since June, I think, June 2018. Yeah, so I went to TechEd, learned a little bit about it, went back, read more about it, did some tutorials, and I got convinced that it's quite an important topic. So that's why I did a presentation internally at SOA people somewhere in February, March. We did a couple of hands-on evenings after that. Yeah, and I thought, well, if I can do it internally, and I even also did it at the Dutch user group, I can do it here as well. Until I found out that I had some serious time trouble with live coding, etc. So I had to kind of reinvent this presentation again. But let's see how it works out today. I want to start with a couple of slides, not too much, because, like I said, I want to spend the time on demoing stuff. But I think it's an important slide, and it's important because it's basically telling you that next to all the SaaS solutions from SAP that customers can subscribe to and start using after a short implementation period, that's probably not good enough, right, for most customers. You always need additional stuff that's unique to your company, etc. So where do we implement that stuff? Well, we used to do it just on-premise within the ECC system, but we shouldn't do that anymore. So that's where the SAP Cloud Platform comes in. So it is kind of the go-to environment if you want to do some custom coding nowadays. So let's have a look then at the focus on CloudFoundry. This is a slide from an open SAP course, the Cloud Platform Essentials. By the way, let me ask you, who is doing the Essentials course right now?
The problem is that there are too many again.
Yeah, I know.
Parallel.
Yeah.
I tried.
But yeah, not too many. That's good because they're also talking about this cloud application programming model. So you should definitely sign up and watch those videos, but after the talk, please. The problem with the CloudFoundry environment, or not a problem, but the challenge is that you have a lot on the left programming models. You can choose to build your Java applications from scratch. You can build Node.js applications from scratch, Python applications, whatever. You can even bring your own language, including Haskell if you want to. But yeah, you still have to code everything from scratch. And it's a lot of work, lots of technicalities. So that has been a problem for a lot of developers, including myself. If I look at myself, I have been programming ABAP for 20 years, and I'm still trying to get up to speed with all these new technologies. So there enters the application programming model, where SAP tries to make our lives a little bit easier by giving us a framework of tools, languages, and libraries, not only by SAP, but also using open source technologies, and it kind of integrate them a little bit to give you kind of best practices, a golden path is what they call it, to speed up your development on the SAP Cloud Platform. So that is kind of the main takeaway for this session. I don't have a slide with takeaways. Sorry, Paul. But the main takeaway is that this should help you speed up your development process. Yeah? Get started faster, have something to show to your customer faster, and to have this interaction with your customer and get feedback. Am I building the right thing, etc. And with this programming model, you can focus more on the business domain, which is something you should focus on if you build a business solution for customers. And you don't get drowned in all these technical details that you have to solve on a platform that you're not really familiar with, at least speaking from an ABAP background. Yeah. So it consists of, well, it still consists of ordinary coding, yeah, but there's one additional element, and I don't have the original slides where this element comes flying in, which is kind of nice. But on the left is the CDS, Core Data and Services, and this is kind of the core of this new application programming model. So who is familiar, let me ask another question, with ABAP CDS? Yeah, a lot of you, that's good. HANA CDS, feel less, but it's more or less the same, right? It is not totally the same, but it's conceptually it's the same. And it's the same here. This new CDS, Core Data and Services, for Cloud Platform is also familiar and almost the same as the ABAP CDS. Only in ABAP CDS we build CDS views on top of existing tables mostly. Here on the Cloud Platform there are no tables yet. So you just build your data model, and yeah, then the tables hopefully should get generated somehow or something, right? Because we wouldn't want to do that ourselves. And luckily they are. I'll show you in a bit. So we have CDS for our data model and for a service layer on top of it. So we want to distinguish between those two layers. The data model is just a generic kind of write once, use everywhere a data model, and then your services should be kind of projections of your data model. You can slice and dice however you like, and you can make multiple services on top of that one data model. So CDS, very important, is the glue for everything. And then you have service SDKs. So you have a service framework. So once you have these services defined, you want to offer them to the outside world, right? That's what services are meant to do. And these are REST-based services. And the provision of those services will happen by the framework. So that's another part of CDS. So there is a kind of generic service framework that will service your services to the outside world, to consumers. Yes?
You call the CDS core data and services.
That's what I learned. That's the new definition, right? It's slightly different. It's probably to distinguish from the old CDS, right? But CDS is CDS. But yeah, I did that on purpose. And you can extend your service definitions because let's face it, I will show you some CDS definitions in a bit, but if you have seen ABAP CDS, you should be pretty familiar with how they look like. But you can also imagine that once you start building a custom application or even just an extension to S4 or something, just some entity definitions will never do, right? That's not good enough. You always need specific logic somewhere. Yeah, and in the old world we had the business objects processing framework with determinations, actions, etc. And here we have something similar. And there you still have to apply custom coding. So it's not like the programming model solves all your problems, but it speeds you up. You get out something very quickly, some basic data model and services, and then you can extend it with some with custom coding in either Java or Node.js. These are the two flavors that are available today. So you have to choose between those. Let me see what else. The CDS thing works with Fiori and other UI technologies by using annotations. That's probably also kind of familiar. It's the same solution as they used for ABAP CDS. It works for HANA and other databases. So you just need a SQL database and then it should work. I say it should work because it doesn't yet work with every database. So today it works with HANA and with a local database for local development called SQLite. In the future it should work with other databases as well. Okay, given the time, I think I am going to move on. Yes, so this is what I already more or less explained, but it's still a useful slide. So to define data models and services, you use this CDS thing, and then to add custom logic, you just program it, right? And it gets processed, it gets hooked into the generic service framework. Yes. For the tool set, you have two choices. Well, you don't have to choose. You can use the Web IDE, obviously, and you get a lot of pretty tools included in the Web IDE. But you can also choose to use local development with local tools. For instance, your preferred editor of choice. Right? And you can integrate the two easily using a Git repository. So you could start with the Web IDE, which generates a lot for you, hook it into a Git repository somewhere, and then download it to your local machine, and then do your custom logic maybe in your preferred code editor. Right? That could be a possible workflow here. And you can synchronize it to using this remote Git repository in the middle. So 15 minutes gone, 25 left for some demo. So let me try to give you a bit of a feeling for what it looks like and what you can do with it. So I'm going to do local development, which complements, I think, the OpenSAP Cloud Essentials course where they use the Web IDE, because it's an SAP course, so they have to use, right, their tools. No, kidding. Because the local tools, and especially Visual Studio Code, which is kind of the default tool at the moment in the SAP community and by SAP itself. Oh yeah. This has a CDS plugin, right, which you can download from the tools.hana.ondemand.com page. So SAP also supports local development. I was just kidding about the Web IDE. So we have a plugin for VS Code, and what we also have is a command line tool. And now I think I'm going to switch over to an external command line terminal instead of doing it from within Visual Studio Code, which is also possible and which is very easy. But I have more screen real estate if I do it like this. So yeah, there we go. So the first command I want to show is just CDS, because it gives you an overview of what you can do with the CDS command line. So it's already, I think it's already pretty cool, and I thought it was cool when I heard about this at TechEd, that SAP has a command line tool to play around with your CDS models. So what can you do with it? You can, and especially the first three and the init are important. The init is for creating a new project, right? Creating a totally new model. Then you write your CDS files. So you write your models into CDS files. And the first thing that should happen is that you have to compile that to, well, the target of your choice. So you can compile to SQL. So I'll demo that in a bit. You can also compile to HANA, but you can also compile to, I think, Swagger. So if you compile a service file to Swagger, you get a nice Swagger file for your API. EDMX is another output. So there are lots of outputs here from this compilation. And one other output is what's called a CSN file. I'm not even sure what it stands for. Probably something like CDS scheme annotation or something. And that's kind of a generic format, which is the base for all other compilation steps. So you're writing CDS files, but the first compilation step to make it machine readable is to convert that into a CSN file. And you won't notice most of the time until you specifically ask for it. And then from that CSN file, the CDS compiler will make either HANA artifacts or just SQL artifacts, etc., whatever you need. So, and for a data model, what you would need for an ordinary database is SQL artifacts, right? Because you want to somehow convert this conceptual data model that you created into a collection of tables and views in the database. Yeah? And that's exactly what CDS compile to SQL does for you. So let me just do that. Let's first, this is the initial command. So it creates a new project in a folder that you specify, right? And I already did this, so I'm not going to do a CDS in it again, but you can choose what DB database technology you want to use. So currently, HANA and SQLite, that's what I said. You can also choose whether you only want a database module or also a service layer, service module. You could create a MTA YAML file for later deployment to CloudFoundry. This is all working for CloudFoundry, by the way. Yes? So that's the kind of target runtime.
Yeah. And it should work also for
XSA, which is more or less also a CloudFoundry runtime. Yes, exactly.
But that can be on premise.
Exactly. It could, I was even thinking it could be, if you have S4 on premise, you're already good to go. But license-wise, you might not be. So that's the lesson for me today. But yeah, technically that would work as well, probably. What else? Here you also have to choose the service technology. So when you not only create services using CDS models, but you also want to add custom logic, well, you have to choose whether you want to do it in Java or Node.js. Right? So the project structure depends a little bit on what kind of technology you want to use. So that's why you have to specify it.
And there is one limitation when you use Node.js, so you cannot have OData v2.
Yes, exactly. So I said in the beginning, you have to choose between Java and Node.js, and it probably depends on your skill set. But it should also depend on which version of OData services you want to generate or want to use, right? I think Java is only v2 at the moment.
No, both.
Is it also?
It seems both.
Both. Oh, okay. So Java does both at the moment. It used to do only v2, but now it also supports v4. And Node.js only supports v4. Just keep that in mind. So you can do a CDS init, and you would get, and now I have to have a look. Yeah, this is what you get. So after a CDS init, you get a project structure like this one. Let me make it a little bit easier to see. So you have a little bit of VS Code specific stuff.
Go full screen. Just press the green button.
The green button? Oh, yeah?
Yeah. No distraction.
All right. So you have a little bit VS Code specific stuff, right? And then you have your DB folder where all your data model stuff goes, and you have a SRV folder where all your service models end up, right? And then you have a Node modules folder because by default the service technology is Node.js. So that's what I took for this demo, and that's kind of the most important part. So within the DB folder, you get an example file already. You can choose to start from scratch, but it's just as easy to get to start with this. And here you can see we have a namespace concept within this CDS and this new CDS incarnation. And in this example, we only have one entity. Is it? It's hardly readable, is it?
I try to get some screens.
Thanks. I'm not sure what I can do to help here. Yeah, maybe another theme or something. What?
Changing the theme would help.
Yeah. Better? VS Code is so easy to use, right? You just have to remember Shift Command P, and you can execute any command you want.
And now do Command plus, and you even have a bigger screen size.
Yeah, I did that several times already.
Okay.
Should I do it once more?
Yeah, once more. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So, again, you have one entity, books, with a couple of fields, right? And that's just it. It's the kind of most basic thing you can do. But that's not all you got, because we also have a service. So you can here see we are using my bookshop, so the namespace again, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure. Yeah. And it says where it lives. And now we have one service defined here, so we can have multiple services in one file. The catalog service, which also has an entity books, and it is just a projection on books from the data model, right? And one-to-one even. So this is really not a service that you would do in real life. But it's possible, and it even has this nice read-only annotation, which means you can't even insert entries into this. You can't create entries for this service because it would give you a 405 method allowed. So that's all there is now. So let me now switch back to the terminal and say, this is what you get from a CDS init, right? So it's one command, and that's all you get this, and now you can do a second command, which is serve, and you see what happens. Oh, yeah, no, okay. What happens is that you now have a service running, and it's running at localhost port 4004. Right, so if we switch to localhost, and reload, and let me make this bigger as well. So yeah, this is what you get. This kind of the default output from the framework. So we have in the catalog one entity, it's books. We have a metadata document, which is where you can have a look at in your own time. But you can also see that there are already some annotations, and that is because of the read-only annotation on the service level. And we can also have a look at the books, but there are no books yet. Right? So that was the first part. So what you can see is with CDS init and CDS serve, you already have a service up and running. And if you, yes.
Will it really work, or do you need to compile?
The compile has happened underneath.
And the deploy?
No, that's not.
Okay, I have not.
No,
I
that's
always use those
no,
as a compile and deploy.
Okay, yeah. But you don't need to, right? It's just doing the service layer.
Mhm.
So the next thing that I want to show you, how much time do we have? Well, not too much. See, that's what I meant with demos are always going slower than expected. But never mind. So now I want to, and I have a trick for this. I'm going to, because I implemented the code jam exercises, that's my demo. I'm using the code jam content that was given yesterday in Utrecht, for instance, and earlier in Frankfurt already. So now I want to go to another commit a bit farther. So I want to add, I go to here. Yeah. Yes. All right, and you can see that it changed a little bit. No, that's the.
You have your CSV.
Exactly. So what we did now, if I open the data model again, is I added a second entity, authors. You can also see that you can define associations between the entities, right? So we have from books an association to authors, because every book is written by an author, and one author can write many books. Yeah, so we also have the association the other way around. So that's what we have added on the database level, or the data model level, I should say. And then in the service level, obviously we now have two entities here as well, and they're still simple projections, so nothing fancy here. But what we also have added is CSV files, and I'll show you one of those. This is mock data that you can use. Because we noticed that there was no content, right? Which was kind of normal because we didn't do anything to get content. There's an easy way to get content on your local machine or in the web ID, by the way. And that is just CSV files. And the thing is, you have to name them very carefully by starting with the namespace and then minus and then the entity name. Yeah? If you call your CSV file that way and you put it in a CSV folder that's just beneath DB folder, the framework will recognize it as data, as content, and will populate the tables. So now, when I do yes, let me do it from within here anyway. Let me see if it works. So now I did a deploy to a local SQLite database that I had already inside here. So I'm not, for time reasons, I'm not going to look into the database itself. But believe me, the tables are there, and the content is also there. So if we now serve all again, so we start the service again. Oh yeah, of course, we have to stop the service, and I did that here. So from here then. Okay, so now we are running again, and when I hit refresh, I have two entities, and when I go at books, we also have some books, right? So it's a convenient way to get mock data into your services. Yeah.
What else? What else? Yeah.
All right, let me have a look. What's next? So we have mock data, and given the time, I am going right away to custom logic. So well, no, let's go for a second service. The only thing I won't do is show you the restricted access. We have the read-only, and you can also do other stuff like insert only. And if you then try, if you have read-only and you try to create a book entity, it just will fail, right? But you will have to take my word for it. Copy the full hash, yes. Let me git reset hard again. So here, when I now open my service model, I have two services. So here you can see those annotations I just mentioned for the catalog service that we already had. This one I can show you actually. But we also have a new stats service. Oh, and we have more stuff. Let me show you that as well. Let me first show you that you can't go. So go back. Oh no, it's still the same. Yeah, same mistake. Refresh. Okay, so we have more stuff, right? So let me take a look at orders, and it says, you're not allowed to view the orders, right? Because of the insert only annotation. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you maybe noticed that there were even more entities than I thought we defined manually, right? Yeah. I didn't show you the data model yet, so let's move over to the data model file. Because now we have some new stuff. We have an entity books and authors. We also have this orders entity. And the orders entity looks a little bit strange because instead of just having it only has these three fields, right? But in the service layer, you already maybe noticed. Oh, it's replacing the files. There's something that we also have these four fields, right? But they're not in the data model. So where did they come from? And they came from, let me show that pretty quickly. They come from the managed keyword here, or not keyword, the managed thing. And managed comes from a file from SAP's own CDS definitions. So SAP has helped us with some predefined CDS content that we can reuse in our models. So if I navigate to managed, yeah, go to definition. Yeah, oh, it's F12. I'm sorry. Here is the aspect managed in a common file, and it consists just of these four fields that you will probably want to reuse in a lot of entities, and that's why it's here, right? So you just, if I go back to the data model, you can just state what you want to use from the common file, and then you use it with your entity definition. So we have managed. We also have something QUIT, which generates UUIDs. So you don't need to have a special ID key field in here. If you use the QUIT from common, then you will get that out of the box, right? So that's one thing. Now, one last thing I want to show, and I think I need to do one more Git reset for that.
Just a second.
Yes, sorry.
You had I think in the source there was to see something about text, but they have not defined something with text. Something like translation. Or
Yes, there are also there's also something localization that SAP already supports out of the box. So you can use.
That you use?
You would use it by using something like localized here. Localized. I'm not doing this with the right syntax, but this is more or less how it works, and it will generate a text table next to the authors table, where you can put descriptions, etc. Right? But this one word localized gives you that out of the box because of the common definitions.
Thank you.
Okay, so the last thing I want to demo is custom logic. Git reset. Okay, now I have to probably kill and restart the server again. Okay. Oh, you can already see that if we have a look at the services, we can now see service names. This is output by custom logic. And also you can see that the stats service has a corresponding implementation from a getService.js file, Node.js, right? And again, the convention is here that you have to call your, name your JS file, give it the same name as your CDS service file. Yeah, so if it's getService.cds, you would also create a getService.js for your implementation, normally. So what do we have in there? Yes, going back to Visual Studio Code. So now we have a getService.js file, and what it does, it exports one function that first writes the service name. So now you can see where those two lines came from when I did the CDS serve all. And then we have a little bit of logic that says that for the catalog service, I want to hook in a function that does something after a read of the entity books, right? So this code, I mean, you have to know the parameters, etc., but it kind of speaks for itself. And for each book that you read, if the stock is large enough, the title should have something like 5% off in prescription. So let me show you that really works.
Fred,
yes.
1 o'clock.
Yes, 1 minute.
Yeah, okay.
So we go to the books, right? And here we have the books again. And indeed, for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which has 1,000 items in stock, we can see that indeed the after read did its work, right? So this is how you can define your own logic. And you can do it after a read, but you can also do it after a post or a create, a delete, an update. And you can do it before a read, an update, etc. And you can even replace the whole service implementation by using on, which is dangerous because then you really have to do everything yourself. Yeah, with that, I just heard we are running out of time. I want to take a picture, I guess. This was the demo, by the way, so I think we just made it. Thank you. Yeah, I will be around for questions during lunch and afterwards, right?
Yeah, thank you very much.